Hey guys, welcome back to Diehlman at Halftime, the NBA podcast that tops all others. I'm your host, Larry Diehlman, joined by my co-host, Christy Pietro. If you're joining us for the first time, it's great to have you, and if you've been a regular listener, welcome back. We have a lot to cover today and not a lot of time to do it. We'll look at a general overview of the NBA this week and then discuss some important topics across the association. Let's get to our content for the week. The biggest story in the NBA came out today, actually. The Orlando Magic fired head coach Jamahl Mosley after 5 seasons. There had been rumors going around for the last couple weeks, and it finally happened. Jamahl went 189 and 221 overall, which is a 46.1 winning percentage, and 7 and 12 in the playoffs, or about 37%. The Magic missed the playoffs in Mosley's first 2 seasons, followed by three straight first round exits. The Magic blew a 3-1 lead to the Pistons this weekend, despite Franz Wagner being ruled out for those three comeback games. And we thought this was going to be a one of the biggest upsets in NBA history with an 8 seed and a 1 seed. Chris, I don't know if Orlando will be able to improve off this disappointing season right away. Obviously, you have the injuries, you'll bring in someone new. Jamahl Mosley, as probably most coaches are, he seems like a nice guy, but it was probably time to get rid of him. And what's hilarious is that around the end of the season playing tournament, everyone's like, he needs to be fired. Then they go up 3-1. Hey, Jamahl Mosley just saved his job. Then he chokes again. Nope, back to the firing. And they finally did it. The Magic will now need a new head coach.
They sure will. Yeah, it was a tough year for Orlando, and it was a tough year for Mosley, who caught most of the blame for their disappointing season. And he's certainly not blameless for the season they had. But I will say I think there's more of a Paolo Banchero problem or piece of the pie going on. Then maybe he's getting credit for. Maybe Mosley might be getting a little bit too much flack, in my opinion. Mosley was a solid coach. He consistently established great defenses, but um, just lacked the offensive ingenuity to really take Orlando to the next level, which they were hoping to get to this season, and it really looked like they were going to, given the Desmond Bane addition. I mean, on paper, this is a great roster. Um, and they disappointed and Mosley, lost his job because of it. And if I were in charge of the Orlando Magic, I probably would have fired Mosley too. I don't think he's a coach that offers you a tremendously high ceiling as a basketball team. But I will say, the establishment of Paolo Banchero as the number one option in itself was a problem for Orlando this season. I believe he is a pretty massively flawed basketball player. His inability to take advantage of the space teams give him is a core fundamental problem of his game. And if he's going to be handling the ball as much as he did, he cannot be a reliable number one option given his really bad efficiency numbers, given, how many jump shots he takes and how, again, often he's responsible for creating shots on the offensive end. The Magic were much better this season with Franz Wagner as the number one option, the number one scoring option. And he did not get the ball nearly as much as he should have. Orlando was much more successful when Franz Wagner was handling the ball. He's a much more well-rounded offensive player, I think. I think Paolo Banchero has all the room in the world to grow into a dominant offensive player, but truth is, some players just can't shoot the ball. It's really not something you can just pick up in the off season. It's something you kind of have the touch for. And, we're entering Paolo Banchero's extension years here where he's going to be one of the highest paid players in the NBA. And, we're still questioning if he's ever going to resolve this core issue of his game, this issue that is going to hold him back from being an elite level player. He was really, really good in the playoffs. We didn't see the shooting be as much of an issue as it has in the past. And he had some really big games for Orlando. And again, I mean, I think he showed that he can be that guy for a contending team. But again, if the efficiency doesn't improve, then I think Orlando's got a bit of a problem, paying Paolo Banchero's supermax style money. Um, but again, Mosley, I think should have lost his job. I just don't think he's a coach I'd want, at the head of my basketball team. I don't think he offers you a whole lot offensively. Um, and with the situation Orlando's in right now, um, I think they have all the talent to just bring a fresh mind in, especially a fresh offensive mind in, and we could see this team turn around and potentially live up to the expectations. I mean, that this is a great roster on paper, and I think any prospective head coach should be happy to walk in and take on this roster. But it was a tough season for them, and I think it was the right decision to take Mosley to the door.
The Magic have a young roster, and yeah, like anybody, I think would be thrilled to take on this roster, this team, and kind of this playing level team. And I mean, who doesn't want to live near Disney World? I think that's also a great
That's a
perk.
great point.
That's a great perk. Yeah, I think Jamahl Mosley, he might find another job, or he might be a great assistant coach. When I was doing research for our segment, I was like, it's been 5 years. I didn't think he was there that
Right, man,
long.
it felt like three, maybe four max.
NBA coaches usually get about three. That's usually a solid number. First year, okay, you show us what you have. Year two, all right, we'll give you one more year. Year three, you're gone. 5 years, I did not see that coming. But Jamahl Mosley is out in Orlando. We'll see how the Magic bounce back with injuries, if they can go get some other players. And Desmond Bain continues his role as the Magic now transition to the offseason. The other major story for our episode today does not have to do with the NBA exactly, but more of a personal one. This is the 100th episode of Diehlman at Halftime. We've been waiting a long time for this one. Yes, Chris, with the golf clap there. This one we've been hyping up for a while now. We did the we did the 10 episode countdown the last bunch of weeks, and it is finally here. We have something really special for you guys. We'll do a round one discussion, just talking about these last series as we shut the door on the first round and head to the conference semifinals. We have not one, but two interviews today. This is the first episode in Diehlman at Halftime history where we have brought in two guests on the same podcast. One of them you will recognize from last year. The other one is a new face in our rotation. And I think this is probably one of the more appropriate episode titles in the podcast history. This episode is entitled The 100th Episode.
So,
So,
who's
who's
raising
raising
eyebrows
eyebrows
at the
at the
moment?
moment?
As we prelude our big interviews we have scheduled here for episode number 100, let's sprint through these round one series as, like Larry mentioned, we make our way to the conference semifinals of the NBA playoffs. We'll start here in the East with the Pistons and Magic. Pistons make the grandiose comeback down 3-1 against the Orlando Magic, a team that really showed them something physically that they were not used to. And I think a lot of Detroit's flaws as a team were kind of exposed in this series, on the bigger stage. Um, just the 15th 3-1 comeback in NBA playoff history. The 14th we will actually discuss in just a couple minutes here. But man, I mean, what else is there to say about Cade Cunningham? I think he's the best guard in the Eastern Conference. He is a stamped superstar. Like, I mean, if it wasn't obvious enough, I mean, what he is doing, wearing a 3-inch thick flak jacket to protect his recovering collapsed lung on a nightly basis in this series is unbelievable. And what we know what he is on offense as the engine of the Detroit Pistons. They're one player who can really create a shot for himself, and he does that at an extremely high level. He was phenomenal on defense in this series. I don't think that gets talked about enough. The way that the entirety of the Detroit Pistons have bought into high level defensive intensity is truly remarkable. And for your number one option, your offensive engine to do the same, just like the eighth guy coming off the bench has. It's pretty remarkable, and I think it's a testament to Cade Cunningham, and I think it's a testament to the culture and the standard that JB Bickerstaff has installed here in Detroit. And again, this is a team that has not added much over the course of the years. They're pretty homegrown and just a really tough team to deal with. Now they had a pretty rough matchup here with Orlando. I mean, honestly, I'm looking at this Eastern Conference right now from a pure play style personnel perspective. Orlando might have been their toughest matchup in the whole conference. I mean, like maybe Toronto. I mean, I'm thinking teams that are big and physical, that play hard, and Orlando is maybe the one team that can really challenge these guys from a physical perspective, and they brought it. We just talked about it. Paolo Banchero had a great series. Um, but that loss of Franz Wagner about midway through the series changed the entire series on its head. And, um, we saw Cade do magician level stuff here, being able to claw back and drop 30 night after night, laboring to his lung, and it's incredible how good he is. And Pistons pull off the unthinkable, come back down 3-1.
The Pistons, and I believe, like we said in the opener, Franz Wagner missed those last three games, and Detroit was able to make that comeback. Like you could tell he was truly the difference maker. This might have been a 5 game gentleman's sweep for the Magic um, had Franz been in the starting lineup.
Absolutely.
And looking at these last couple games for the Magic, you can probably see why Jamahl Mosley was let go. Um, the Magic led by 24 points in a home game 6, and they scored 19 points in the second half, and they missed 27 of their last 28 shots. I am not making these up. That is just a one of the bigger choke jobs in NBA playoff history. We all remember the infamous 27 missed threes by the Rockets back in the 2010s against the Warriors. 27 to 28 shots by the Magic is certainly not any better. Tobias Harris for the Pistons of all people sealed his former team's fate
What a game, man.
with
What a
30
game for
points
Tobias
in
Harris.
game 7. This was the Tobias Harris Bowl. He played for the Pistons. He plays for the Pistons. He played for the Magic, and he sent his former team home packing with 30 points in the major game. The Paolo Banchero hero ball came up short. He's had some great games in this series. He had the 45 with Cade Cunningham matching that. I believe it was game 5, like 38 in game 7. He did all he could, but without Franz Wagner, there was not much you could really do with this young core. And the Pistons, they pulled it out and they showed why they're the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. And having home court advantage, it really matters. A lot of home game 7s usually go the home team's way, and that's what happened here with Detroit. A great series, and the Pistons, they might want to watch out. This was a tough matchup in the first round. They might have to watch their backs as they head to the conference semifinals and potentially beyond.
Home teams in game sevens, big advantage, typically win, but not in the 14th 3-1 comeback in NBA history, as the Philadelphia 76ers somehow, some way climb all the way back from down 3-1 to defeat the Boston Celtics in TD Garden. I mean, exercising some demons. This was unbelievable to watch. I mean that's not a game the Sixers win. I mean, that's just not a game the Sixers win ever. I mean, historically, the Celtics own them. They had not won a series against them since 1982. That being in a game seven, I mean, the Celtics have just historically had the Sixers number, especially in this process era. But Joel Embiid coming back, I mean, just completely flipped the series around. It was unreal. I mean, 2, 3 weeks after appendix surgery, still laboring up and down the court because of his knee issues. It did not matter. Um, and also given the amount of gravity he commands, from opposing defenses, it didn't matter. Joel Embiid just on with no cartilage left in his knees, without an appendix, with half a face, with broken fingers, does not matter. I mean, he is just one of the most talented scorers in NBA history. Like I don't think that there's even a shadow of a doubt about that. And he showed it in that game seven. He looked absolutely fearless, um, talking smack throughout the entire game with Jaylen Brown. Um, it was just an unbelievable performance from Embiid. He was 0-3 in game sevens in his career. The moment has historically gotten to him as a player in the playoffs. But as of these last couple of years, I think he's really started to cool down mentally in the playoffs. And honestly, I think it's because of the amount of personal hell he's gone through because of these injuries. Early in his career, obviously injuries were still a big part of that, but Embiid loved being the loud, boisterous, number one option and talking smack routinely and making wild Twitter posts. But he would arrive in these big games and he frankly wouldn't really show up. And they would kind of be ugly performances from him. But I think we've seen him cool down as a human being over the last couple of years. It's been a lot less loud from Joel Embiid's end. Um, I think he's dealt with a lot personally, just rediscovering himself as a person, given what he's experienced because of these injuries. And I think this constant conflict I think this constant conflict he's in with his sorry. I think this constant conflict that he's in with his body um has made him fearless on the basketball court. Because I think that the injuries have, obviously done their physical toll, but a severe mental toll. But um given that he's able to walk onto the floor in TD Garden in a game seven, against the team that's always had his number, in a game where he's 0-3 all time in game sevens, and he looked absolutely fearless. Like it was an all-time Joel Embiid moment. Like this might be the moment of Joel Embiid's career so far. It was incredible to watch, and it's going to be interesting to see where Boston goes from here. There's been a lot of debate about whether the Sixers won the series or the Celtics lost it. Um, and the Celtics they just could not. It was a series of making or missing shots, and the Celtics really just did not shoot well in Game Seven and did not shoot very well in any of the games they lost. I think they tried to maneuver back into that huck up threes and pray mode that they were in when they won titles before. And honestly, it's worked. They've been really efficient from three in recent years, and that was the strategy when they won the championship. But they did not have the team for that this year, and they tried to play like it, and it didn't work. A lot of those shots weren't falling. But just an incredible moment for Embiid. The 14th 3-1 comeback in NBA history, and the first in Sixers franchise history. Just an incredible moment.
Not only is it the first in Sixers history to overcome that deficit, it's also the first time the Celtics have ever blown a 3-1 deficit.
That's right.
As Philadelphia area residents, seeing Boston tears never hurts anybody, I don't think.
Mm-mm.
Subjectively.
Yeah,
So
of course.
the Celtics, it was a heck of a series all around, but Tyrese Maxey with that takeover to end game seven, he's had the last couple possessions. The Sixers had a big lead. It was about like a 20-point lead. The Celtics whittled it down, and I'm thinking, are we coming back to classic Sixers? And Tyrese Maxey said, absolutely not. This is my time now. and the Celtics had no answers for him those last few possessions. Joel Embiid averaged 28 points across those 4 games that he played, truly turning back the clock to his original self, despite every injury known to man being placed upon him. VJ Edgecombe, rookie, 5 for 11 from distance
Fearless.
in Game 7, in TD Garden, hitting 5 triples and about 50%. That is just that's just cold blooded coming from VJ Edgecombe. And hey, out of those Rookie of the Year contestants, he's the only one left. Cooper Flag isn't here. Concanipple ain't here. VJ Edgecombe is now in the second round. Um, and the probably the funniest thing of this whole saga, and it's still going. Jaylen Brown is being probably the he is just being such a sore loser right now. Like you just have to kind of shake your head. Even if you're a Celtics fan, you kind of just have to shake your head and say, "Bro, like stop."
They're tired of him. It's pretty ridiculous saying, flopping is ruining our league and Joel Embiid is no sinless player when it comes to that. I think he hunts fouls at a rate that like a lot of superstars do nowadays. And it's fair to say what he said, but
He pushes
I
he pushes off a lot too.
yeah, no, I hope he doesn't think he's exempt from that, is what I'm trying to say. Like I hope he knows that he does the same thing. If he's just making a general criticism of the league, then like sure, like fine. But if he's saying that, thinking that he doesn't do it, then that's an issue and that's frustrating.
He was going on a live stream and he was calling out that the refs had an agenda against him, and I'm just thinking, dude, like you lost, get over it. The Celtics, this was supposed to be a punt year, and they turned it into, 1 win away from a conference semifinals. I know the Celtics have had a very colorful history, but I mean, this was supposed to be a down year, and they turned it into this. So they'll definitely bounce back. Sixers, though, moving on, and we'll have more on this in a little bit.
Okay, we'll sprint through these remaining series because frankly there's not a whole lot more to talk about. No epic 3-1 comebacks left for us to talk about. So we'll transition here to the Knicks-Hawks series. Knicks take it 4-2, Knicks in 6. My prediction. Larry,
As
what
was
was
mine.
yours?
As was
Okay.
mine.
All
My
right,
only
sweet.
my only one where I was right on the team and the number.
We both nailed that one. And maybe just as jarring as an outcome as some of these 3-1 comebacks, but maybe not in the same fashion. On the road in Atlanta, Atlanta had played great, considering the expectations for this series. Game 6, they're at home. They have a chance to take it to 7 games, go back to MSG, a shot at the second round. And just a couple minutes into the second quarter, the Atlanta Hawks unfortunately found themselves down 72 to 22. Um, which I mean, like I remember I did not catch that game, and I'm glad I didn't. That is just unbelievable. I don't think we've seen anything like that since we've been NBA fans. Elimination game being down 50 with like 8 minutes left in the second quarter. Like,
Don't forget the Mavericks Suns Game 7. Luca went nuclear in Phoenix.
true, true, yeah, that I mean that was what though, hovering around 50 at points. I mean, that wasn't 8 minutes left in the second quarter. I mean, like I don't know if we'll see something like that for a long, long, long time. Yeah, so the Atlanta Hawks just went out totally sad in this one. Larry Young, let's play a game. You're Quinn Snyder. You're walking to the locker room. You're down a good 48 points. What are you telling CJ McCollum and the boys?
I don't even know. Like you just got
We
to
had a
go.
great season.
We had a great season. Start getting your Cancun tickets. Don't go on Spirit Airlines though, because they're about to
Nope.
fold. But
Yeah.
just pack it up. What are we doing? Like, come on.
Just unreal stuff in that series. But we did have one more Game 7. I mean, at the East this
Now
year,
wait,
at
wait,
least in
wait,
this.
wait, wait, go back.
Go ahead.
Um, Now you said you didn't watch this Knicks Hawks series. or at least game six.
I didn't catch the game at
I
all. I'm sorry.
watched the first half of this Knicks-Hawks game
Oh man,
six.
please enlighten us. I want to hear your
I
experience.
think, what was it? I flipped on another game. Maybe it was the Flyers or something. It was somebody else. I flipped on. I went to the first half and I went to somebody else. Game six in 2 words. It was absolute murder. The halftime lead was at 47, which is the largest in NBA playoff history. Absolutely disgusting. The first few possessions, the Knicks were scoring with ease. I swear to you, every Hawks possession, turnover, 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 block, turnover, turnover, turnover. It was bad. There was literally nothing to cheer for if you're a Hawks fan. I mean, if that was at Madison Square Garden, like whatever. When it's at home in front of your own fans, like how? I don't know because the Hawks did such a great job in games 2 and 3 keeping those games close, and then they just like rolled over and died. So it was what an embarrassment for the Hawks. CJ McCollum obviously will have a full off season to become this like veteran leader with the Hawks next to Jalen Johnson. And man, real quick, the fact that the Hawks have Zachary Risachet, they chose him number 1 overall a few years ago, and that he was basically a DNP. Man, I think the Hawks need a do over on that one, but this
To
series
say the
definitely
least.
went. The wrong way for the Hawks. They got those 2 games. Knicks are moving on, and as similar to the last series, we'll have more on this in a little bit.
All right, and fine. On the East, we have another game seven. The East this year was just a total anarchy. It was it's been an awesome East playoff so far. Cavs take down the Raptors in Cleveland in game seven. It was a tightly contested game. It was a tightly contested series. I believe I also nailed this one, Cavs in seven. Although I really found at the end found myself kind of rooting for Toronto here. Man, it was an unbelievable Scotty Barnes series. I mean, there's not a whole lot of players in the NBA I'm taking over Scotty Barnes right now. I mean, he showed his stock in the series. Um, just is it's just as high as some of the bigger name superstars in the league. Like I think he's hovering around that top 10 player range. Like he is unbelievable. What's he able to do defensively? I mean he shuts down a half of the court. Like you can't dribble near Scotty Barnes. You really don't want to shoot over Scotty Barnes. He's just a black hole defensively, and given how athletically um what's the word I'm trying to find? There's sometimes you watch Scotty Barnes play, and he just looks a bit out of sync athletically. He just looks a little clunky on his feet. But I mean, this might be the best, clunkiest looking player I've ever seen. He is a just as dominant force on offense. I mean, his playmaking, at that size, at that strength, at that level of athleticism is unparalleled, and it's such an invaluable skill for him. He can get to the rim at will. He shot really well from 3-point range in this series. I mean, he is just a tough, tough, tough player to deal with. He's one of the toughest players to deal with in the NBA, I think. I mean, there are star level players that you can contain. It's hard to contain Scotty Barnes unless he's having an off shooting night. I mean, um, he just had an incredible series in it, and I'm sad to see that it kind of went down the drain a bit. But Toronto had a great season relative to what I think we were expecting out of them. Cleveland, kind of what we expected out of them this series. A lot of moments where they looked great, a lot of moments where they didn't look so great. But they were able to really tighten up in game seven. I think they played their most complete game of the series, just from a rotation standpoint. It wasn't just purely Donovan Mitchell and James Harden, do your magic. Jarrett Allen had an incredible game seven. Funny considering his history of saying the lights were too bright in his last game seven. And watching how he stepped up in this one was really cool to see. as Cleveland's going to move on here to play the Detroit Pistons, which I think is a better matchup for the Pistons than Orlando was. But another game seven in this chaotic Eastern Conference first round. Cleveland takes it. It was a really fun series. And yeah, unfortunately for Scotty Barnes. I wonder where the players in Toronto take their vacations. Do you think they're even quicker to book a trip to Cancun than the US guys, given their cold weather? Who knows where Scotty Barnes will be taking his talents to this summer?
I bet Canada is a beautiful place, but yeah, they might want to pack a trip to or get a trip to maybe a warmer climate. And yeah, like you said, you covered all the major points. Like a lot of game sevens in this Eastern Conference first round slate. The Cavs take that one. Interestingly, the home team won every game. The road team was unable to steal a game. And they always say the series starts when the road team wins. I guess the series never started. The Raptors, they started strong in game seven, but then a Cleveland tidal wave entered Rocket Arena, and that was the end of the Toronto Raptors. We saw that Jarrett Allen legacy game. He nearly had a 2020 game in points and rebounds, had a couple blocks, and Scotty Barnes definitely leading this way for the Raptors as they move forward. Plenty of great pieces. You have Scotty Barnes, you have RJ Barrett. Brandon Ingram did not play in this game due to injury. Maybe the result would have been different had he played. Jamal Shed is a talented guard. And yeah, the Raptors, I think they'll be back. Darko Rajakovic says that in his press conference, he says that he learned how much he loves this roster and he loves the players and he wants to keep coaching them. And hopefully he gets another chance as the Raptors now go to the off season. And an exciting Eastern Conference second round, we have Cavs and Pistons, Sixers, Knicks, as we say goodbye to the Raptors, Hawks, Celtics, and the Magic.
Let's get
Uh,
some early predictions in here for round two. What do you
well,
say?
in my original bracket, I had Pistons in five. Now, obviously, I had the Celtics in five, as I think both of us did. Oopsies. I think I had this New York series in six. I'd say Sixers have a chance. If they play like they did in TD Garden, they should have a chance. For now, I'll side with the Knicks, maybe in six. But Joel Embiid said, "Don't sell your tickets. They want Xfinity Mobile Arena to be Philly bred." So we'll see how that works out in this series. Now let's flip over to the other side of the association. We'll go with the Western Conference first round, see how everybody did over here. Let's start off with the Thunder Suns. Now, the last time we were on, it was a 3-0 lead for the Thunder, and we said this was going to be a quick series. And wouldn't you know it, the Thunder finished it in four. It was a clean sweep for Oklahoma City. The Suns were unfortunately a casualty to a juggernaut, but they overachieved. This was a year that I don't think this was a year I don't think a lot of people believed in the Suns. Nobody really knew who Jordan Ott was coming into this season. You're coming off getting rid of Kevin Durant, and the Suns definitely showed that they are here to play. Dylan Brooks with a career year, but you were not losing. The Oklahoma City Thunder. The Oklahoma City Thunder were not losing in the first round. Come on now. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and company did not even really break a sweat. That last game was about a 9-point win. Nothing too crazy though. Chris, I mean, come on. This is light work. This is the preseason of the finals for them.
I got two words for you. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is the best player in the world. That's
Char-
literally all I have to say about this series.
yeah, it's pretty much
Shout
per
out Charles Barkley.
yeah, must see TV. Must see TV, damn it. Let's go over to our next series in the West. The other team that we expect to continue their journey. We had the Spurs and Trailblazers. The Spurs wrapped this one up 4-1, pretty easy. as we're hoping for a Thunder Spurs Western Conference Finals. The Trailblazers, again, overachieved. We've talked about it 1,000 times now with Tiago Splitter taking over this year as the interim head coach after Chauncey Billups got arrested with the organized crime that he was allegedly involved in. And the Blazers really stepped up. Denny Avdia had a breakout year and an all-star campaign, and a lot of their young guys really shined on the national stage. The problem was you're running into Victor Wembanyama and Stephon Castle, which is, yeah, not the best matchup if you're a young team. It's good experience, but in terms of trying to win, maybe not the best matchup. The Blazers, they had chances actually. They choked big time leads in both of their home games in games 3 and 4. The Spurs took over even when Victor Wembanyama was on the bench in game 3 due to a concussion. And the biggest question for the Portland Trailblazers is what do you do at head coach? Do you extend Tiago Splitter, or do you go out and see if there's a better candidate available? Do you go and get another unknown candidate, maybe some assistant across the league? And Chris, there are rumors of Portland's ownership trying to lowball their next head coach. They're trying to see if somebody will take the lowest salary in the league. And if I'm a head coaching candidate, Portland is not exactly a big name city. I don't think a lot of free agents exactly say, "Oh boy, let me go to Portland." Go to the Pacific Northwest. They have a great roster for the future, but I mean, if there's rumors the owners don't really even want to pay you, that's not a good thing.
It must be really frustrating being a Portland Trailblazers fan, and really any fan of a team that has incompetent ownership, cheap ownership. Tiago Splitter did a incredible job relative to probably what we expected out of him. Coming in on short notice, getting thrown into the fire after the Chauncey Billups situation unfolded. He did a great job, and it looks like they're not going to retain him because they don't want to pay up, and it's unfortunate. And many Portland players have spoken out about how kind of crazy that is and how much they appreciated um Tiago Splitter. But San Antonio takes this one, but not without resistance. Unlike in that Thunder Sun series, the Spurs faced some adversity in this series. I thought Portland was I think I had mentioned it in the playoff prediction episode we did. I thought Portland was a pretty decent matchup for San Antonio. Yeah, I did not expect them to win. I think I predicted a sweep in this series, but like I was talking about with Detroit and Orlando earlier, just from a pure personnel play style perspective, I thought Portland kind of matched up well, and um and it showed. Yeah, there were plenty of moments in this lead where, or in this, there were plenty of moments in this series where Portland had leads and were in good position to finish games, and they just couldn't do it. And so. We kind of expected San Antonio to move on here, but I thought it was an impressive showing from this Trailblazers team as the San Antonio Spurs move on, hopefully on a crash course to meet the Oklahoma City Thunder in the West Finals. As a fan of the sport's sake.
Hold up, let me cook. Tiago Splitter to Orlando. Hmm.
Interesting,
He
interesting.
he might need a job, and Orlando needs a man. So I don't know.
Playing
Maybe
matchmaker.
go from the chilly Northwest to sunny Orlando, Florida. I think that's a great upgrade. Just saying. Sorry, Portland fans. Um, let's go to our 3-6 matchup, and it was the Denver Nuggets and Minnesota Timberwolves. Yikes. I had Nuggets in 7 in my predictions, and it did not go the way we thought it was going to be. I think everyone was expecting a shootout here, 6 or potentially 7 games, and it went 6 games for the Timberwolves at least. Timberwolves got the 4-2 win. They will move on to take on the Spurs. And yeah, this series was definitely one that people did not think was going to go the way they thought. Rudy Gobert was locking up Nikola Jokic. Jokic still had his numbers, but at times it seemed like Rudy Gobert was getting the better of the Joker, despite the fact that Joker has cooked Gobert in the past. Um, just for the Nuggets, Christian Brown was absolutely invisible. He was averaging under 10 points a game. He was putting up like single digits, like it was nothing. Jamal Murray with an absolute dud in game six. He was like 4 of 17 shooting. And for any Nuggets team to make the NBA Finals or win a championship, Jamal Murray needs to be on his A game. And we've seen him have some great performances. We've seen him turn into Michael Jordan against the Lakers multiple times, but Jamal Murray did not have a very good end of this series. TJ Shannon, though, with a breakout game six, he had 24 points. Something that I don't think most people would have on their bingo card for this series. We saw Ayo Dosunmu go nuclear earlier in the series for the Timberwolves, and we'll see how the Timberwolves can do now that they're moving on. We'll get to that in a little bit, as you might figure out why Anthony Edwards is looking to make his comeback from injury. Dante DiVincenzo is done for the year. Ayo Dosunmu coming back from injury, but lots of questions for this Nuggets team. David Adelman, his first full year as the head man after Mike Malone's unceremonious firing last year. And Nikola Jokic said if they were in Serbia, they would all be getting fired right now or something. And yeah, the starting lineup, even without Aaron Gordon with a couple injuries, this roster might not be it.
It was a rough series for injuries, especially for Minnesota. And I mean, they were at a severe disadvantage after both Anthony Edwards and DiVincenzo went down, but it did not matter because the Wolves outworked the Nuggets. They out-hustled the Nuggets. They were more athletic than the Nuggets, and the Nuggets just could not hang with them physically. That was the deciding factor in the series. Nuggets obviously also down Aaron Gordon, which is so huge for them because the Nuggets are a team where, you try and find a weakness and it's probably them just getting outworked athletically. And Jamal Murray doesn't have such spry knees anymore. He's not young and bouncy. Nikola Jokic has never been the most bouncy player. They lack athleticism, simply put. And Anthony Edwards goes down, DiVincenzo goes down. It didn't matter because the Wolves just beat them athletically over the end of the series. It was really cool to see the Wolves kind of unleash Ayo Dosunmu. Once Anthony Edwards went down, it was just such a cool moment with him dropping 40 to win that game where Edwards and DiVincenzo went down, and then Dosunmu himself. We thought that the rest of the series was going to be kind of riding on him as the X factor, and then he goes down, and the Wolves unleash Terrence Shannon Jr. and he goes crazy. It was awesome to see this kind of next man up mentality from Minnesota, and again, they just outworked Denver. It's going to be interesting to see where Denver goes from here. Um if they can't get a healthy Aaron Gordon, who is aging and has really battled with his hamstrings over the last handful of years, then I mean, I don't think this is a championship team anymore. Jokic did not quite look the same after the knee injury. Like you said, if Jamal Murray's not on and he's only getting older, if he's not playing at his peak level, I mean, it's hard for the Nuggets to reach their ceiling as a team. So I think they're kind of at a crossroads right now, whereas um, the character of this Timberwolves team really showed once Anthony Edwards went down, and it was looking like a multi-week injury for Anthony Edwards, but somehow, some way, he's figuring on making his return tonight against the San Antonio Spurs in Game 1. So, unbelievable stuff from Anthony Edwards, one of the just coolest players in the league, in my opinion. But Minnesota takes down Denver, surprisingly, in round one.
And apparently, according to TJ Shannon himself, apparently he was like barred from practicing or being in the facility or
Yeah.
something, which, even with that, he was still able to help take down the Denver Nuggets. Final Hungry dogs run faster. And finally, let's go to our final And finally, let's go to our 4-5 matchup in the Western Conference first round. And the Los Angeles Lakers, despite being the higher seed, kind of an upset here. Lakers take down the Rockets in 6 games, and they did not have Luka Doncic for the entire series. They didn't have Austin Reeves for a good chunk of the series. He came back toward the end. Kevin Durant for the Rockets played in 1 game, one, and he was the big acquisition dealing with injuries, relatively healthy all year. They just could not get him to get into the game in this Lakers series. And we clearly saw that LeBron James still has it at 41 years old. It doesn't matter 31, 41, 51, Lakers and 6. Um, they truly, I mean, LeBron is just one of a kind at his age, still aging like fine wine. And despite the fact that the Lakers don't exactly have the most sexy roster ever, a lot of role players past their prime, former number one picks like DeAndre Ayton, former number one pick, Marcus Smart, former defensive player of the year, a lot of guys that might be odd men out in some scenarios, but they were able to take down the Houston Rockets and their young squad. And I don't think really Houston had a chance in this series without Kevin Durant. And I know we've talked about in recent episodes where Amen Thompson needs to develop a jump shot or be a little more aggressive offensively. Şengün is not exactly an all defensive type player. And, Ime Udoka is a great head coach. He might have some work to do, though, in the off season. And will Fred Van Vliet, will that make any difference next year? He was out the entire year with an ACL tear. Maybe does he make a difference at the point guard spot? And I think I saw a report earlier today. The Rockets are relatively going to keep their core together. They really can't go after anybody big after getting Kevin Durant. So we'll see how that works out. And for the Lakers, they're present for defeating the Houston Rockets. They might get an ass whooping against the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Are you doubting LeBron James right now? I'd be careful, Larry.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, it should be an ass whooping, quite frankly. But what a series for LeBron James and the Lakers. We saw, I spoke all season about how I thought their roster was just super shallow and just kind of poorly constructed, but they really kind of shut me up against a Houston Rockets team that is infinitely more talented than them. The Lakers pull off the upset here in round one. LeBron looked incredible. Um, and guys like Marcus Smart and Luke Kennard really stepped up in his absence. Austin Reeves obviously made his return. But I really think the more interesting thing is where the hell does Houston go from here? It's tough. I thought Fred VanVleet was an absolutely massive loss for them before the season started, tearing his ACL. I think that had a lot to do with why Houston kind of faced some of their issues offensively this series. Um, and also the Steven Adams loss was also just absolutely devastating for them. He was incredible for them. I mean, some of the on-off numbers for um Steven Adams lineups for Houston are just unbelievable. I mean, the impact he was making and the stability he provided down low and on the boards. But that this is a team, like I've said, is kind of spearheaded by flawed players. Amen Thompson is a great player, but some of the offensive creation stuff is really questionable, and he's just not a good shooter, and we don't know if that'll ever come along. Alperen Şengün, talked about it last episode, I think. Such a big part of his game is those touch shots around the rim, which he still, we're into his max contract at this point. He's still not hitting those at an efficient clip. Um, he's a player that any given night can drop 30 points, but might not do so at an efficient level, which is a problem if you're trying to win basketball games and that's the goal for the Houston Rockets, not to stuff the stat sheet, but to win basketball games. And if you have Şengün taking 20 shots and only making 8 of them as a big man, it's tough. So, Houston's kind of in a pickle, from a roster construction standpoint. I think if you add Fred VanVleet and Steven Adams to this team, I think they make easy work of the LA Lakers. So I think they have at least that to look forward to. But again, I think I will question a team with so much stock in players like Amen Thompson, Alperen Sengun. I think I will question a team like that until they show me that they can, offer more variety offensively and go win a series. So yeah, it was a tough season for Houston. And yeah, just an incredible series from LeBron James and the Lakers as they proceed here to probably their fate, but who knows, against the Oklahoma City Thunder.
So in the Western slate, we say goodbye to the Houston Rockets, the Denver Nuggets, Portland Trail Blazers, and the Phoenix Suns, and we have the Thunder Lakers and Timberwolves Spurs in the conference semifinals. So, for our next guest of season 3 on the Diehlman at Halftime podcast, we welcome back Josh Reynolds. For almost 4 years, Josh was the host of the That's Ball Folks podcast for SB Nation. He was an NBA analyst for Indus News. Josh's X account is quite popular among Philadelphia sports fans with over 65,000 followers. I just checked, it was 55 when we talked last time. He is a bachelor's in business marketing from Utah Valley University. Josh, how are we doing today?
Doing well. I appreciate you guys having me on, and I thank you for the little shout out of my Twitter growth. That makes me feel good. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, well, I copied the beginning part from my last script when I had you on, so I was like, damn, 10,000 more followers. Josh, we want to get your thoughts on the Sixers Celtics series here in the NBA first round. The Celtics, as of this recording, are up 3-2. First off, what are your thoughts on this Sixers Celtics series overall? A lot of fans thought Game 5 would be the finale, as did Chris and I. The Sixers slammed the door shut pretty quickly on a Celtics comeback, though. Do you think Game 6 is going to be the last game? Do you think they have a chance in a potential Game 7 in Boston, though?
Okay, so I think that's the biggest thing. Let's start there. For whatever reason, the Sixers team refuses to show up at home and they play in Boston like they're a completely different team. I don't get it. They can actually shoot, they're energized, they play with energy. I don't know what it is. So that is my concern going into game 6, but let's take a quick step back and talk about game 5. I tweeted this a bunch. I cannot get over the fact that Embiid did what he did. And again, like it's all over every media platform all day today. And rightfully so, because the dude just 19 days out of emergency appendix removal surgery is back, not even glimpses, like back to his dominating self in the second half that we saw last night. And it was, again, I don't know what happened, but it was like a switch almost flipped. Like he listened to Shaq at halftime or jumped on Twitter and started to read everybody crushing him for settling for three pointers and was like, wait a minute, I still have this in me. I can get down low. Vucevic, the poor soul, he can't stop me. And he showed it. He was damn near perfect in the second half last night. And I cannot get over the fact that he is doing what he's doing and did what he did fresh off of surgery. Like I cannot get over that. But that's Embiid. That's an amazing fact. We got to give the rest of the Sixers props. Like Maxey looked great. Paul George defensively has been phenomenal this entire series. That's not getting talked about enough. And how about Quentin Grimes deciding to show up last night on both sides of the ball? Hit some big shots, but I just keep replaying over and over in my mind that defensive stand that he had on Jaylen Brown that ate up like 20 seconds of the shot clock. And then Jaylen Brown ended up trying to draw a foul and settle for a bad shot. And then Embiid came down and hit a turnaround off a little dream shake. Like everybody played well from top to bottom. And that is not a game that the Sixers win ever. Like historically. I'm going to read you this little stat because I couldn't get over it. The Celtics were 32-0 when leading a playoff series 3-1, and the Sixers were 0-18 when trailing 1-3. Like, so when I say that's a game they never win, quite literally, they never win that game. So it was pretty damn awesome to see Embiid show up, to see the rest of the team show up, to finally see some bench support. And yes, of course, it helps that Boston went ice cold for the entire fourth quarter. But again, when Lady Momentum's on your side, you got to ride it out.
Yeah, I was seeing Quentin Grimes lock up Jaylen Brown and then hit threes, and I'm like, what is going on right now, man?
It didn't feel
Um,
real. It didn't feel real.
no.
Quentin Grimes can be so utterly frustrating to watch sometimes.
Dude.
Up and down and up and down and up and down, and he seems to only show up late in games. He seems to only show up when nobody's around, when Joel's at home rebounding, while Maxi's sick or rehabbing a finger, or Paul George is in the rehab room. That's the only time we typically see Quentin Grimes show up. And seeing what he did last night was unreal. And I agree with you about Joel Embiid as well. I was starting to get frustrated towards the end of the first half, beginning of the second half, when I started to see him pass up on those threes despite being ice cold at the beginning of the game. Those are shots I like for Joel. Those are shots I think the Sixers should be happy with, and he was passing them up. And I was starting to get a little frustrated at first, but he went straight to the post and just absolutely bullied Kata for the remainder of the game, and that was incredible to see. I mean, when people talk about Joel Embiid, you hear this a lot, but it's the correct sentiment that he is one of the most skilled big men of all time. And we're seeing him laboring, both knees. He's got half a face. He's got Bell's palsy. He's got appendicitis. It doesn't matter. Like, his ridiculous high skill level, his skill floor is enough for him to walk into any game at 45% and just dominate, because he has it in his body, he has it in his skill set. And he was starting to get cold from three last night, and again, he just forfeited pretty much every three for the rest of the game to just say, I'm going to go drop 35 in the post. It was incredible to see.
I couldn't agree more. Like again, I just and look, we know that Embiid is kind of on the tail end of his career. That's not like a secret. The fact that even if it was just last night, let's hope it's not, but even if that was just last night, that he was kind of able to recapture that and have a moment like that in the playoffs, just as obviously a Sixers fan, as an Embiid supporter, and a dude who has been in the front lines battling for this guy's reputation. Like that was pretty damn awesome to see. And you nailed it. Like he can be at 45% and just decide like, yep, I'm turning it on and I'm going to go and absolutely dominate and take over the game. And that's exactly what he did.
It was incredible. It was incredible. You mentioned the end of Embiid's career. That would be a really sad moment for any Sixers fan when the day eventually comes. It's looking like it's probably going to be sooner rather than later, but who knows? He's one tough guy. But that would be a heartbreaking moment for a Sixers fan. And that is something that Sixers fans have gotten used to over the last 10 or so years of this process era. So we figured, a guy who's covered the Sixers as much as you have, as credentialed as you are, we have all experienced these heartbreaks, and they've each impacted us in different ways. There might be some on the consensus above others, but we really wanted to hear your personal top five process era heartbreaks from the 76ers. That can mean an injury, that can mean a playoff result, that can mean a trade, a bad free agency signing, any bad decision, luck, anything. What has made your heart break in this process era? We want to hear your top five.
So when this was sent over to me, it was kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say therapeutic, but it was a stroll down memory lane. Honestly, I could have made a list while I was trying to like rank these. It could have been 20 deep, easy. And then it made me take a step back and be like, okay, like people joke and be like, ah, Sixers are a cursed franchise. On paper, there's really no other explanation. That it has to be it. They legitimately might be cursed. So I'll start at five. And again, these are just mine. I put a lot of thought into this. My fifth one is the Mikal Bridges trade on draft night. Now, let me dive a little bit deeper into this because we take him at 10. Obviously, everybody knows it's the feel-good story. He grew up right outside of Philly. His mom works for the team, like match made in heaven. We end up trading him for Zaire Smith, and it was like a 2021 first, I think, for Miami. And that all is terrible. We're seeing what Mikal is doing or not doing in New York right now. We saw what he did in Brooklyn, and we saw what he did in Phoenix. But also attached to this, that first that we got in that trade is who we attached to go get Tobias Harris and Mike Scott and Boban. So this kind of spirals in a way. And It's all encompassing. I have my thoughts. Everybody's got their thoughts on Tobias. For better or for worse, that led us down a path of giving Tobias a max contract, which in the time, I get it, whatever, you got to do what you got to do. We all know he was not a max contract player, but I think that trade spiraled it out of control and led to other big things. So that's my number five. Any thoughts on that before I jump to number four?
And Zaire Smith eventually got like food
Dude,
poisoning or allergic reaction that almost killed
yeah.
him. And
Okay, so
like,
I
what are
don't
the odds?
know. I don't know how much. I'm gonna tell a story. We'll see. If I get in trouble for it, I get in trouble for it. I don't know how much is public. He grabs a lunch bag at the training facility, thinking like just to go. He has a severe peanut allergy, like a really, really bad one.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing about peanuts. Yeah.
Dude, burns a hole in his esophagus, goes straight to the ER. He's in the hospital for months, loses like 40 pounds, honestly, almost dies. Thank goodness he didn't. Obviously, he's okay. He even tried to make a little comeback in the G League, and you see him pop up in Summer League here and there. But like that, again, that is easily on the list. You could, I don't know where you rank it, but
It doesn't
like
get much more Sixers than that.
exactly, exactly. It's like when you talk about freak accidents, it's like, okay, well, like, yeah, that is the definition of a freak accident, but that might not even rank in the top three.
I wonder if we'll
So
see another accident on your list.
I like where you're headed. Yep.
Kelly Oubre, anyone? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so that was another one too. Oubre didn't make my list, but that is a good one. All right.
Had to shout it out there.
Yeah, again, just the most bizarre stuff. Number four, Joel Embiid's MVP year, losing to Boston in that series. We had a 3-2 lead. You guys remember this well. James Harden goes out and balls out without Embiid game one. I think he dropped what, 45, something like that in the Garden.
41,
40,
Yeah,
something. It was
45.
insane.
Yeah.
it was insane. He hit that step back over Al Horford, which I absolutely love because I hate Horford and always will. And it was unbelievable. And that, again, being Embiid's MVP season, was like, okay, maybe this is it. Maybe this is when we finally get over the hump. Beat Boston again, go up 3-2, lose game six and seven, but not just lose them. Like we got smashed. And I will never forget game seven because it happened to be on my birthday and Mother's Day, double whammy.
Ooh.
And I'm like, great. I'm like, I was at my mother-in-law's and I'm like, hey, I know it's your day. It's kind of mine too with my birthday. I just want to spend some time watching the Sixers. And they got just demolished. They were never even in the game. And that was bad. And maybe that's a little recency bias just because we are in the playoffs against Boston again. But that one felt all too real because we were so close. At least it felt like we were. So that's my number four. You ready for number three?
Am I ready for number three?
Yeah,
I'm
no
not.
kidding. No kidding. I'm gonna put Markel Fultz at number three.
God.
So a lot of people, when they think of Markel Fultz, they automatically are like, oh yeah, you could have taken Tatum over Fultz. True. However, that's not at all where I want to take this. I will take it to my grave that he was the right draft pick. That player who we saw at Washington was the right draft pick. He was the piece to plug in with the guys who he had. Nobody in their right mind thought that he would develop some crazy shoulder thing, whether it was from an accident, whether mental, who knows, right? Him completely changing the way he shot the ball, which again clearly affected his mentality, clearly affected his confidence. Yes, I will never forget watching his weird like herky jerky
The
free throw.
hitch. The
Yeah,
hitch, man.
dude. Oh
It
I
my
was
gosh.
unbelievable.
I call it
But
Mark.
again, like
I call it
watching him
Markel
at
Fultz
Washington,
syndrome. So
yeah, for real. Watching him at Washington, even watching him in summer league, it was like, okay, this is the dude. Like this is the guy. We now have a three-headed monster that we're going to ride out with for the next decade. And to see the way that that fizzled out, now obviously in hindsight you can look back and be like, we traded up to even get him. I would to put this in perspective, I was so happy the day that we traded to get up to number one to take Fultz. I literally tweeted and was like, "Hey, send me your Venmo. Like I'm buying drinks." I bought probably 50 people drinks that night. Strangers on Twitter. I was that happy. So to have all of it go, I mean, again, like it's sad obviously to see his career arc. Like he's not even in the league. Like it's all sad. But that one was absolutely devastating to me because I truly believe he was the third guy.
Now, this next placement's important because I think there's a shot on all of our mind.
Yep.
I wonder if we'll see it where we think we will. Go ahead for number two.
So I went back and forth with one and two a lot, and you could honestly say 1A, 1B. Like there's really
I
not
mean, you
a
could say 1M, 1P, 1O, 1Z. So,
You're so true. All right. Well, just to put it as a number two, I'm gonna say the Ben Simmons Hawks series. That's my number two. Now, obviously, it was the beginning of the end for Simmons. We saw it right in front of our eyes. The stupid spin move. He didn't even look at the rim. Trey Young's right there on him. Easily could have dunked
it
it,
was
laid
like a
it up.
Renaissance painting. It was like the moment where
Yep.
everything just went straight downhill for him. It's kind of crazy to look back on it.
Da Vinci wishes he could paint a picture like that.
I know. It's just the story it tells. I mean, it's really crazy how we can look back on a frame from a sports game with such emotion.
No,
Go ahead.
truly though, like I watched it. I didn't want to, but I had to this morning. In the slow-mo of that spin move where he just turns, I literally you can see his eyes. He never looked at the rim once. He was passing that thing to Matisse the entire time. And then like Matisse looked at him after and like shrugged, and Ben just kind of gave him a shrug back. It was like, oh man, like you guys nailed it. Like you literally saw in that moment his entire confidence, which was already shaky. Because if you guys remember during that series, he get to the free throw line. Philly tried to give him the whole Trey Turner standing ovation, hype him up. There's the clip of that dude in the stands who's like trying to hype him up and show him how to shoot free throws. Like, and then Doc Rivers has post game quotes of like, I don't know if he can be the a starting point guard on this team. Like, I'm not so sure. It's very weird, and you nailed it. Like, it's very rare to be able to look back at the exact moment, not an injury, but just a play that literally tanked an entire player's career. And the reason I put him this high is because we all know what Ben Simmons was. I went to battle for this dude. I defended him not having a jump shot for forever. But to his credit, like he was an all NBA defensive player, obviously rookie of the year, all-star, without any of that. And he didn't need to have that because the roster at the time was like, okay, we can construct it around him just running and gunning, getting rebounds, triple doubles, like great. And again, it just Ben was one of my favorite players to have that moment. And that series, like, let's be real, we had absolutely no business losing to that Atlanta Hawks team. None. 0%. Like,
I
kind
got
of,
penciled us into the Eastern Conference Finals when we got matched up with them.
yeah.
Neither did the Knicks that year.
Yeah, yeah. Seriously though, like I'm the exact same way. I'm like, this is unbelievable. We're finally gonna do it. Like we're heading to the conference finals. And again, like it's almost embarrassing that that roster is completely turned over. They don't have anybody still there in Atlanta. And they're all just like a bunch of island of misfit players that happen to be on that team that killed Ben Simmons' career. And I hate that. That's my number two.
All right, we all know where this is going.
Yep. Yeah. But we all know what number one is. I have not been able to watch it, and this sounds so dramatic. Let me just preface this. I have not been able to watch a full replay of Kawhi's shot since it happened.
Neither can we.
I don't know when I will be able to. And I was joking with my wife. She's like, "Are you serious? You've never watched it?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Well, like shock therapy, like watch it." I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna do
Yeah,
that."
yeah, maybe it'll be therapeutic for you in the same way that going down memory lane was. Um,
You're
I've watched it a plethora of times and I'm numb to it at this point. I've accepted it, but I mean, in the moment, there was like truly nothing like it. Like,
nope, nothing.
I mean, literally first game 7 game winning buzzer beater in NBA history. Nothing
Yeah,
like it. And of course, it happens to the Philadelphia 76ers.
of course, of course. I want to hear your guys' story about where you were because I'm sure you remember what you did.
I have a
I
good one.
I was sitting in my basement. I when games tend to matter a lot, I get way too into it and I can't have anybody around me that's causing any type of distraction or anything. And so there was some event, again, I sound like a terrible son-in-law, but there was some event going on at my in-laws' house and I'm like, hey, like game seven, like you guys get it. And to their credit, they're like, yeah, yeah, we get it. And so I'm alone in my basement. Jimmy Buckets scores. I mean, he hits that little pull up off the glass. I'm like, holy crap! Like this is unbelievable. We're headed to OT, and same thoughts as everybody. And that damn shot. So quick little story. Shoot around that day. The entire emphasis was if Kawhi catches the ball in any type of into the quarter, any type of anything to force him left. Do not let him go right. Joel Embiid just so happened to miss shoot around that day. Don't know why. And if you guys recall, Ben was guarding Kawhi and Joel jumped out. The game plan was to cut him off and force him to go back to his left. That clearly did not happen. He goes right, dribbles all the way to that damn baseline, and it hits the shot. And honestly, kind of like everybody else, when it released, you saw it was flat, and then it bounced once. I'm like, oh, like great. It all happened so fast, but I'm like, oh, great, OT. Bounce, bounce, bounce. Kind of just like slowly sat back on the couch, watched for a second, felt numb, turned the TV off, sat there, and then on my way back upstairs, I may or may not have punched a hole in the wall, which I've never done before, but I did. I did it this time. And I don't know. Again, I don't know if I will be able to ever fully get over that because you can look back on the entire history. And again, I mentioned the Celtic series, the Hawks series, but like that truly was the closest I think we will, well, knock on wood, but the closest revision history looking back that we've been to making that step. And so to have it all end off of that BS bounce, just, and honestly, to Kawhi's credit, like, he was one of the greatest players I've ever seen, and that's not an exaggeration during that series. Dude was an absolute robot. Anytime they needed a big bucket, he got a big bucket. And to have one of the greatest buzzer beaters in NBA history happen against your team, like there's no bigger heartbreak. That's it.
Well, I'm
So,
sure every Sixers fan listening will appreciate you giving that little tidbit about shoot around. Just make it a little easier on us knowing that and the history of that shot. I think that'll make it just that much easier to digest,
yeah,
hearing that Joel Embiid missed shoot around that day. So thank you so much for that. But my story, how I remember it. So my entire mother's side is from South Georgia, middle of nowhere. None of them are even really into sports, but my grandma was up visiting and she's sitting in the living room talking to my mom. I'm probably like 13, 14 at this point. I have the game on the TV. My grandma, again, not into sports, from the middle of nowhere, South Georgia. She doesn't know what's happening. She doesn't understand the magnitude of this game. And Kawhi rolls right. Simmons passes it off to Joel. Joel probably jumps 12 feet in the air, but not high enough. Clank, clank, clank in. Announcers screaming, crowd going crazy, everyone huddled around Kawhi. I just break down in tears. And my grandma, I don't think I've ever seen her more in awe in my life. She had no idea what was happening. Chris, it's just a basketball game, Chris. I said, Grandma, you don't understand. You don't understand, okay? Like this was my life. This was my life, this shot. Kawhi just he might have just ruined my life. And you're sitting here telling me it's just basketball. Grandma, I love you. I'm so glad you came up to visit. But just take a back seat on this one. You don't understand, okay? So there's
that's
my little tale about game 7.
that's so good. And honestly makes me feel better about being a bad son-in-law to have your grandma drop that little line on you.
Listen, yeah, I feel you, dude. I mean, I think the entire greater Philadelphia region will feel us to some extent.
Yep, agreed. Larry, what about yours?
I mean, it was pretty simple, just watching on TV, and I was like, Jimmy Butler was the team savior at the time, and just seeing that shot, one, two, three, four, TV just went right off there and then. I was like, nope. Same thing with the Hawks series. TV went right off. I don't think I even saw the end of that Hawks game. I'm just like, nope. But yeah, that really screwed the Sixers' plans, and not only from an emotional standpoint, but it's had a ripple effect on the franchise as a whole because then in the COVID year, you go out and get Josh Richardson and Al Horford, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, this is the
I was
best line."
so hyped for those
This is
two, dude. You
you're
have no
everybody was
idea.
like, "This is the best lineup ever." Nobody's smaller than like 6'8" on this starting lineup, and then Al Horford's gone after like a year. Josh Richardson plays his way off the team, and then he
So
goes like to the Thunder, and we've seen just time and time again they can just never get it done.
let me just say real fast. I mentioned earlier, Al Horford. The reason I will hate him for probably the rest of my life is
Du-
because of that short Sixer stint.
He's a double agent.
Double agent. I 100% thought this exact same thing as you guys. I'm like, okay, Horford, for whatever reason, has always had our number. Now all of a sudden he's on our side. This is fantastic. This is going to work out perfectly.
Yeah, I
Obviously,
mean he was Embiid's kryptonite.
yeah, he
But
can't.
that was the case. I mean, he was the only dude that could feasibly stop Embiid on any given night, and we're like,
Yes.
well, he's with us now.
Yep. On paper, it was like this is the great answered prayer, the greatest possible thing that could have happened.
But then you
And then
realize
obviously,
this is a team with Brett Brown and no bench.
yeah, yeah, it stopped and ended there. And it was truly as if I mean, Horford clearly didn't find where he fit. And then this, like you said, the second he left and went to OKC, it was like, he's good again. That's so
There's Al
crazy.
Horford.
It drives me nuts, dude. Horford. Anyway, forever. That it was a little tough to go through that list. I'm not gonna lie. But if we would have gone through that list after a game five loss, just depressing as can be. I'm still feeling a little high going into game six. I feel okay.
I think we
I
all
feel pretty
are.
good. I feel pretty good. And listen, Josh, I think the only way to make it through a conflict is through it, and you toughed it out, and you rewatched those games and those moments, and you compiled a great list for us. So we appreciate you, and we know that you probably came out of it feeling a little better. We'll get away
Absolutely.
from the negativity for now.
To wrap things up with the first round nearing the end here, we have the Thunder, shockingly, already punching their ticket to the conference semifinals. Got a couple game sixes and possible game sevens coming up. What are some of your predictions or hot takes for the rest of this postseason? It could be anybody, not just the Sixers. Anybody
Okay.
that's going on upset mode. Injuries playing a factor for some teams. Is it just going to be a steamroll to the finals for somebody? What do we got?
So you mentioned it with injuries, and it really sucks. I mean, every single postseason, we all remember what happened last postseason. Everybody's Achilles and just dropping like flies. It's the same story every year. It's whoever can stay healthiest the longest. Like there has to be some luck to make an actual run, and it sucks. I'm thinking of the Wolves Nuggets series, like to have both DiVincenzo and Ant go out in the same game the way they did is brutal. I think the Nuggets will come back and win that series. Honestly, if they don't, huge disappointment for them. They have no reason not to. So I've got the Nuggets coming back, beating the Wolves. I do have them losing to the Spurs though. I think the Spurs OKC Western Conference Finals, and I don't know if that's a hot take, but I think the Spurs are going to do it. I've got them coming out of the West this year.
I was so close to picking them.
Yep.
That was my Western Conference final. I think Larry had the Nuggets over the Spurs in seven in
Yep.
this hypothetical round two matchup. But man, I was so close to taking San Antonio to go to the finals. I think I had Oklahoma City in seven. I think from a narrative standpoint, like Shea needs his prime badass moment. Him and Wemby,
Yep.
Spurs Thunder go to absolute war in the Western Conference Finals, like straight close games across the board. Shea has his cold-blooded killer moment in this West Finals this year. I'd say Wemby, maybe you can have it next year or for the next 12. I don't know. That's what it's starting to look like. But yeah, I mean, San Antonio. I didn't really think that that guard three-headed monster was going to fit together so well, at
Yep.
least in year one of it.
Yep.
But I mean, they lost like 5 games after the All-Star break, maybe like less than. Like
It's
it
crazy.
was, it's insane. I mean, and they already beat Oklahoma City 3 times this year. So yeah, I mean, I'm stoked to see how the West shakes out.
Thunder Spurs Western Conference Finals might literally be one of the most watched playoff series of all time. It'll be
Oh
that
yeah.
that hyped up
It'd
and
be unreal.
it'd be filthy.
All right. And then out of the East, we got to talk for a second just about the Pistons. And
Dude, show. This is me and Larry's finals pick out of the East. The both of
Chris,
us.
no, you know what? No, Chris,
What?
I said Pistons over. No, I'm sorry, I said Thunder over Pistons in five, and Chris was like, "Whoa, that's disrespectful," because he had Thunder over Pistons in six, and I'm like, "Mm-mm." And now they're down to the freaking
All right,
Magic.
dude, you can't say you picked them to go to the finals too, dude. And they're about to get gentlemen swept by peanut butter.
dude,
Like, it's
okay.
unbelievable.
It really is. And look, the team that we're seeing now is clearly not the Detroit we saw in the regular season. Like,
No.
it's something happened, something with Jalen Duren looks like
Jalen Durant, I mean,
what?
he looks like Tristan Thompson right now.
Seriously, no, that's honestly a really good comparison.
I mean,
It's
he's got
brutal,
nothing. He's empty. Like,
empty.
I don't. He's playing against his ex-girlfriend, Angel Reese's new boyfriend, Wendell Carter Jr. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Dude, how about the poster
Maybe.
he was on?
Oh my God, yo! Shout out
Ooh,
Jamal Cain, man. That was old school. That was
oh.
great. That was awesome to
Hey, there could
watch.
be another factor here. Remember, Jamahl Mosley's on those smelling salts. Maybe something happened there.
True. True. I mean, maybe that lit him up. Did you hear about their I believe it was before the final playing game against Charlotte, Jamahl Mosley, he canceled like a formal typical film session just to go through his players' college highlights to remind them who they are. That's tough. And I mean, maybe that was the 180 they needed. I mean, because it looks like this is the Magic team we were expecting coming into
Yep.
the season. Like I thought they were going to be like a top three seed in the East this year. Like I loved them coming into the season, and yeah, they just came out super flat. And now again, total 180. Cade Cunningham is turning the ball over like 10 times a night. Jalen Duren looks like a third of the man he was in the regular season. It's unreal.
It really is. It's insane. And I like the Pistons are like a feel-good story, like all season. And I loved it. Like I am a big Cade Cunningham fan. I like their roster, but again, something has happened, and maybe it's just a weird matchup, but you're right. Orlando has actually started to look like the team we expected them to. But I've got Orlando. I think they finish it. I think the Cavs figure it
Wow.
out against Toronto. And I am trying to take my Homer hat off, but I think the Celtics close it out, whether it's in 6 or 7. I hope it goes 7. That'd be fun.
I guarantee you the Sixers come out so flat
Yeah,
in
it
game
just
six.
it's almost like predictable,
It's
but
inevitable.
yeah, yeah. And so it's kind of fun like going in because it's like we're playing with house money after winning game 5. It's
Right.
like,
Yeah, it's
all right,
fun. It's
yeah.
fun. You know, these little moments of joy as a Sixers fan, you
Yeah,
can't
you
beat them.
gotta find them where you can get them.
Yeah,
That's the
they're tough to
sad part.
find.
And then the Knicks will handle the Hawks. So I've got the Celtics. I think the Celtics beat New York, and we've got a Cleveland Boston Eastern Conference Finals. And so I've got the Celtics and Spurs, and I've got the Spurs winning it. I think they're gonna do it. I think that's my hot take.
Celtics might be penciled in for the Eastern Conference Finals with the Cavaliers, just saying.
Yeah.
So, Josh, thank you so much for stopping by the podcast again, and we hope to have you back in the future as we are celebrating the 100th episode of Dealman at Halftime.
I love it. Thank you, fellas. Appreciate you both.
So, for our next guest of season 3 on the Dealman at Halftime podcast, we welcome Jeff Rasmussen. Jeff is the co founder and co host of the Hot Hand Theory, an NBA podcast driven by data and film study, and a contributor for the Knicks media company, The Strickland. Jeff, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Excited to, I mean, the playoffs are just such an exciting time in the NBA. So yeah, excited to
Are you
chat with
stressed
you
out
guys.
right now? Your Knicks play in about 2 hours here.
No, I don't really get stressed like that. I'm just firmly process over results. It would take a lot. And the Knicks have played a few pretty dramatic playoff series over the last couple seasons, and I stay pretty reserved, I guess.
It's
That's
all
good to hear. That's good
definitely,
to hear.
definitely good. Jeff, we wanted to get your thoughts on the Knicks so far this postseason and the rest of the NBA playoff picture as well.
Awesome.
Given what you've seen so far from the Knicks in this series with the Atlanta Hawks, rotations, lineup combos, actions, defensive stuff, etc., if you were in Mike Brown's shoes tonight, what are you emphasizing to close out this series? And maybe what adjustments are you making forward should they continue their postseason run?
Well, it's a weird situation, right? Because, I mean, on one hand, you just want to repeat what they did in game 5. I feel like that really, really highlighted the talent disparity between the two teams that should have been apparent all series long. And I think that when you look at games 2 and 3, that was more about what the Knicks weren't doing than what the Hawks were doing. And when the Knicks kind of stepped up their strategy and really started to anchor what they were doing towards the strengths of their team, it was tough for the Hawks to play the way that they had been playing and keep up. I think if the Hawks really, really overhaul their strategy, there are some things they can do to hurt the Knicks, but they don't really seem interested in doing that. So it's like a guy I like to talk a lot about, Josh Hart. He's shooting 15% from three this series. Now, to me, if you take a coach like Joe Mazzulla and you give him Josh Hart shooting 15%, it would be almost impossible for Hart to be a positive this series. I would argue that Hart's been one of the 3 most impactful Knicks in this series, despite shooting 15%. And part of that is because Quinn Snyder just isn't doing anything. Like, he's not like, oh, there's this guy who plays a lot of minutes, who's a wing, who isn't shooting the most confident right now. There are things we can do to hurt his teammates. Not doing that, not even really attempting to do that. And so Hart doesn't have that negative gravity that sometimes we see against the Celtics, for example. And instead, all of his strengths are being amplified. So if you're Mike Brown, you're kind of just hoping the Hawks keep playing like that and you just keep doing what you do with the thought in the back of your mind of like, okay, if they press this break glass in case of emergency button of we're going to start cheating off of Hart and we're going to try to punish Towns, we're going to try to punish Brunson, I'm going to have a backup plan ready for that because to the second part of your question, the Celtics, if they meet Boston round two, will definitely come prepared with a strategy like that.
It's interesting you say that. Through these 5 games, I feel like Atlanta has been the stagnant team strategically. I'm not sure if this is too blankety of a statement, but I mean it feels like a lot of, just like let CJ McCollum cook. And whereas I feel like we've seen 3 different versions of the Knicks this series. And I feel like Mike Brown has shown a willingness all season to kind of radically change things up. It feels like there are 5 different versions of the Knicks that exist, and you're even more read up on them than I am. So I'm curious. I mean, do you think it was really just CJ McCollum, a matter of him making shots that was putting the Hawks over the Knicks kind of earlier in this series? Or was it something you picked up on, maybe absent of that, maybe an internal issue with what the Knicks were doing that was causing them to drop games early in the series?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do think obviously McCollum playing the way he did is going to raise the floor of the team. He was just playing so well. But I also think the Hawks have some things that can hurt the Knicks. Like the Knicks don't handle stretch fives very well at all. And even when the Hawks have someone like Dyson Daniels, who's a non-shooter, Okongwu has the ability to spread them out in a way that other teams, with more paint bounce centers maybe don't have. And then speaking of Daniels, first 4 games of the series were maybe the worst 4 games that Jalen Brunson had played consecutively in the playoffs in his Knicks career. And while there are theories as to, he's playing injured, what's going on, maybe they started catering to Towns more. Do you think Daniels played a big part in that? I think he's an excellent defender. I think he should be in all defense conversations for pretty much any season that he's healthy. This sounds like a cop out or like a lawyery answer, but I do think it's just a little bit of both. I don't think it's really ever all or nothing. I think that Hawks were doing some things that maybe hurt the Knicks, and I think that the Knicks were kind of hurting themselves too, and that straightened out towards the end of game 4 and really in game 5, which I thought was one of their best all-around performances on both sides of the ball in the Jalen Brunson era.
It looked like they figured out Atlanta in that game, like decisively.
Yeah, because early in the series, I mean, it was just coming down to the wire. I mean, back-to-back 1-point victories. That game two at the Garden was clutch, and then the one in Atlanta, seeing CJ take over that last possession, I was like, damn, son, that's crazy.
Was that on your bingo card for this series, Jeff? CJ McCollum breakout at age 34?
It wasn't, but he's just so skilled,
He
like
is.
it's funny. I love having these conversations because I love bringing up my dad in these conversations because I watch the games with him. And like I was saying to you, I just sit there and my brain is just sort of like, I'm watching the game more analytically. And my dad is like living and dying on these plays. And he just spent the whole first 2 games talking about how CJ McCollum's the scariest player. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, eh. He's like, yeah, this is the kind of guy who can just get hot. And he just kept saying that. And I was just like, all right, maybe he's right. Maybe we're supposed to look out for this. And yeah, I mean, he's just been so good and props to him. And I really think that we talked about this at the deadline when Atlanta got him. It was a really weird situation because if you had told Hawks fans before the season, hey, you're going to trade Trae Young at the trade deadline, I'm sure like most of them would have just been like, holy this is rock bottom. Like we're just
Yeah,
completely hitting
punt
the
the
reset.
season away.
Right, exactly. And just in a weird way, the way Quinn Snyder was able to just quietly refocus the energy of the team and what their strengths were, what their focuses were, really impressive. And I think McCollum kind of in the short term has given them what they need. So props to him and props to them. And whether they win this series or not, I think it's mostly positive for them this season.
They can
It's funny.
definitely
I brought it up in an episode prior how CJ McCollum has just been what Atlanta's wanted out of Trae Young for so many years. Just a guard who is not going to turn the ball over, who's going to shoot the ball efficiency, and who's going to know his role and not get exploited defensively. CJ McCollum is not the biggest body. He's not your ideal defender, but he is not borderline blowing games in the way Trae Young was. Trae Young was this radical player. He'd had stretches where we're watching him drop 33, 13 assists, and at least stay afloat defensively, and then you'd have stretches where it looks like, like how do you give this guy a max contract? And the way CJ McCollum in a similar body type, a smaller guard, has been able to provide exact opposite levels of consistency on the floor. And then, like you said, he is so skilled. It doesn't matter that he's 34 years old. Having a guard in the playoffs who can handle the ball, make shots efficiently, not turn it over, make the right play. It's invaluable. And there were points this season where, we were looking at CJ McCollum as a buyout candidate, just a foregone conclusion in his NBA career. And, because of that skill set, he's here winning games against the 3 seed Knicks, like almost single-handedly. It's pretty incredible to watch.
Now, here's the thing, Jeff. We have Mike Brown obviously leading the Knicks right now. Do you think this series would be different in any way, like scheme-wise, or just numbers, as in 3-2 already over if Tom Thibodeau was still going?
Oh boy.
It's a fun
leading
question.
that's a leading question right there. I don't know, it's so weird. So for starters, I think that Mike Brown and Tibbs maybe not in effectiveness, but in just like the way they view the game and the way their overall outlook, I actually think that it's closer than a lot of people want it to be. Like I think in general, what the Knicks front office was looking for was like, what if we just got a Tibbs that maybe would collaborate with us just a little bit more, like on the margins. They weren't looking for a huge overhaul the way maybe some people thought they should. My guess is it would be pretty similar, but I do think they had slightly different at the margin strengths and weaknesses. I think one thing that Mike Brown has a clear edge over Tibbs in is the tactical stuff. And you look at those first couple games when the Brunson ball wasn't really working as much. The fact that he had the wherewithal to say, okay, we're going to lean on Towns more. And by the way, I have some plays in my back pocket that they're not going to be able to stop. I mean, they're being broken down ad nauseum on Twitter and on YouTube and stuff like that. But it's really impressive tactically from Mike Brown. I think that's clearly his biggest strength, not just relative to Tibbs, but just in general. But this isn't meant as, I think Tibbs did a lot of things well, and I think they would have been huge favorites to win this series with either one as coach. So to me, the takeaway from this series was always going to be like, if they don't win this series, a lot is going to have to change, and that's independent of who the coach is. They need to win this series, and it's far from over. Yeah, I mean, they have to go on the road and take care of business, and if they don't, they lost a game 7 at home in 2024. They've lost some to worse teams in both 2023 and 2025 in terms of seeding. I think the Knicks are going to win the series, and I think they definitely should win the series. I'm just saying it's not over. They got to take care of business.
It's interesting you bring that up because the Knicks, if they don't win this series, are pretty landlocked in regards to a roster construction standpoint. All that money tied up, gave up all that future capital to get the players you have now, notably Mikal Bridges. I'd be fascinated to hear how you feel about him and his contributions given the kitchen sink New York used to acquire him.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about this for a half hour, but I think
I'm sure.
I think objectively you have to start with what the Knicks gave up to acquire for him. In a vacuum, he has not lived up to that. Like that is just, in my opinion, objectively true. Now,
Right.
You have to at least acknowledge the Knicks overpaid for him. Like if you look at his past impact, even his peak seasons in Phoenix, when he was totally bought into the role that they were hoping he would buy into here, that was not a 5 first-round pick player. That was a very good player, but it
Yeah,
was not what they traded for him. So I think like that's kind of unfair to him. He was probably never going to live up to that package.
that's
But
true.
this
Yeah.
is an entirely different level. Like what the Knicks are seeing from him in terms of the way he's lost his confidence, the way Mike Brown just sort of is like, yeah, you're going to start by default, but we're going with Deuce McBride. We might even go with Jordan Clarkson in some of these 4 starting lineups over you. That is just beyond anything. And I think if we really want to get into what's causing it, I think he is he deserves the majority of the blame. His role is as big as he wants it to be. And it's there for the taking. Maybe he's not getting as many touches as he wants, but he's on the court. Like they want to play him. Look at what they're doing with OG Anunoby. Him and OG are basically the same idea. And
Yeah,
OG
no,
is
OG has been spectacular.
right. And he's been, arguably the best player in the series. And I just think that on the other hand, some of this does go to just the overall strategy and what the Knicks are doing, which kind of holds Mikal back. So I keep giving you these sort of half measure answers, but I do think that basketball the modern NBA tends to work like that. Like I'm just never going to be polarizing and be like, Mikal sucks. This is all on him.
Right.
Like
No, that's the
I,
right stance to take. I appreciate that.
I do think that he has more agency, though, then maybe I think it's gone too far the other way. I think it's there for the taking. And look, I think that if the Knicks come up short this season, he's going to be the first person people look at in terms of like, oh, well, clearly this roster doesn't have enough to reach the top.
Naturally, yeah.
And I think that's natural, like to use your words.
Yeah, it's really not fair to compare him to what was used to acquire him because, if you win a championship, like so what? And that's what he was brought here to do and the role he was asked to fill, just be able to nail threes, defend at a high level. And like you said, I mean his role offensively outside of being able to hit open shots is kind of up to him because we've seen him be able to create for himself at a high level. And we obviously know the archetype of player he is. He's able to play off the ball at a elite type of role player level. But that's not what we've seen from him lately. But let's transition here. Just want to grab your overall thoughts on this playoff picture, this playoff landscape. I want to know if you have any predictions. Let's call it conference finals, maybe some prize teams exiting early. Just any takes you have league wide about this current playoff picture. I think it's a pretty interesting one, given where some teams sit right now in their series.
A lot of game sixes right now too.
Yeah,
Fun.
interesting. Interesting is a perfect word for it. Like it's all these series are going deep except San Antonio and Oklahoma City. And to me, that's kind of the takeaway, right? Is that it's very possible that we look at a potential Oklahoma City, San Antonio Western Conference Finals. That's just the finals, like whoever wins
Yeah.
that is going to, and they really do seem head and shoulders above the rest of the NBA right now. We just dropped a video essay on the Spurs and the unique impact of Wembanyama. To me, that is the story because you have two amazing young teams that are on a collision course to meet in the Western Conference Finals. And this could be the first of many, like this could be
I
one
hope.
of those things. Yeah, I do too. Honestly, I love stuff like that. People sort of in the moment were talking about how bored they got of Cavs Warriors. But I mean, if Kyrie doesn't leave the Cavs in 2017, I think we get another pretty damn epic series in 2018. A lot of people forget how good that 2017 Cavs team was. And I think we could be looking at, 2-3 years down the line at, holy cow, these two teams are meeting for it all again. In the East, I don't know what to think of any of these teams. Like this is crazy.
Let's hear Detroit and Orlando. I mean, just instant reactions.
Yeah, I mean the Franz news is such a bummer
It
because
is.
XJ and I have been trying to hype Orlando up all season. It's like they won't let us, and it's like they won't
Because
put together.
I mean, like the stats when Franz is the primary ball handler in a game compared to when Paolo is are like appalling. But Paolo has been definitely much better lately.
Game five, Paolo
compared
and
to him.
Cade were cooking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
it was
that was an awesome game.
there was a stat I saw on the broadcast. Cade had the most points in a Pistons playoff game, a single playoff game. He had 45. Paolo had 45, which was one shy of tying the Magic single game playoff scoring record. So both of them were just on point on Wednesday.
That was a sweet game.
Yeah, that was amazing to watch. Okay, so with that series, I believe in the theoretical upside of Orlando, but I'm not sure that exists, or I know it doesn't exist without Franz at his best. I want to focus on Detroit for a second because if we all can just agree that Franz needs to be healthy for Orlando to be a real threat or whatever to whoever they play in round two.
Absolutely.
I think Detroit is getting too buried right now. So I guess that's the hot take I'll say. I think everywhere you look, you people are making this series about what Detroit isn't. And there's very little focused on the fact that as far as, matchups go, this was a nightmare matchup for Detroit, just in terms of what Detroit is trying to do, the way they're trying to beat you. They're trying to play physical. They're trying to dominate you in the paint. Orlando is kind of built to just spit on that, like
Precisely, yeah. I said it plenty of times before the playoffs started. Orlando, despite being what we think is a broken basketball team right now, they are one of the handful of the teams in the league that can hang with Detroit physically.
Yeah, 100%. And so it wouldn't surprise me if Detroit finds a way to win the next two games, which their chances improve with Franz just ruled out for game 6. It wouldn't surprise me if Detroit sneaks by and then even if they get Cleveland in round 2, who, again, I was higher on Cleveland than most people coming to this postseason. They've disappointed me as well. It wouldn't surprise me if a bunch of people look at that matchup and they're like, okay, Detroit barely snuck by the 8 seed who was missing its best or second best player. They're going to get crushed by Cleveland. It wouldn't surprise me if they overachieve against Cleveland and win in 6 or even 5 games.
I think it's a better matchup.
I do think that they're being more bogged down by the matchup than their own shortcomings right now. And I think that a team that Orlando is uniquely equipped to handle their physicality. So just people out there, if you're listening, Detroit, you're seeing people say like worst one seed ever and they suck. And like, yeah, sure, they're not the greatest one seed ever, but I think they're getting it a little bit too much right now. And I think they might surprise some people if they get out, if they escape round one.
2015 Hawks would like a word with that.
Man, you want to talk for another hour? Who's the guy? Nick Wright had a good monologue about that, about how basically all the 2010s East teams, we basically just pretend they suck because people don't want to give LeBron his credit. Like that's basically what's happening, right? I mean, that 2015 Hawks team, if you look at it objectively, they had 4 All-Stars. They had like the second best net rating in the NBA behind the Warriors. They won 60 some odd games. They cruised through the first 2 rounds, although they were down 2-1 to the Wizards in round 2, but they still win in 6. At the time, nobody was like, oh, this team sucks. It was only after LeBron single-handedly swept them that we retroactively were like, oh, yeah, actually they weren't that good. They suck. There's my rant for the episode.
Shout out Bud and Jeff Teague, man. People forget.
Facts,
And
facts. That was Atlanta Al Horford too, bro.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
Millsap was good.
Horford,
Damari Carroll and
Damari
Korver were good
Carroll.
role players. Yeah, this was a
Yeah.
good team. That's unfairly disrespected retroactively, in my opinion.
I
So
like
what?
that take.
So what are we saying is your finals prediction? Who over who and how many games?
Thunder and Spurs.
Um, I'll say Thunder over Knicks in 5.
Ooh, okay, okay. Chris and I both had Thunder over Pistons. I said 5, he said 6. So looks like it's a little bit of danger right now. So we'll see what
Yeah, no,
happens.
I think
Just a
that's a
bit.
reasonable. That would have been a reasonable pick before the. I mean, you would have looked a lot better if they got Charlotte instead of Orlando because
Oh my God. I mean, I think the
yeah,
series would be over if they got Charlotte. I
yeah.
mean, Charlotte is the exact opposite from Orlando in the way that they cannot handle that type of physicality. I mean,
Right.
like all of their best players and even Diabate and Kalkbrenner, I mean, they are not hanging with Stewart and Duran. And clearly they were not hanging with Wendell Carter Jr. and Paolo Banchero in the final play-in game.
Yeah, it's funny. We love Charlotte over at In Theory, big Charlotte fans, and I think that Charlotte's better than Orlando in a vacuum. Like I think they'll be
Right.
better. Well, excuse me. If you give Orlando much better coaching next year, I think Orlando will be better. But this Orlando team, how they're
Yeah.
being used offensively right now, I think Charlotte's better than Orlando in a vacuum. I think they would have given like Boston more of a problem than Orlando would, for example. But the Detroit matchup is just to your point, they just don't handle physicality well. LaMelo tries to get those handoffs on the move, and Detroit just blows those actions up. It's just would have been too hard for Charlotte to hit its offensive ceiling against that Detroit defense.
Yeah, definitely. So, Jeff, thank you so much for coming by on Dealman at halftime for our 100th episode, and we hope to get you back on in the future.
Wow, thanks so much for having me. Congrats on 100 episodes. That's
Thank you.
truly I'm truly
Appreciate it.
humbled that you decided to involve me. So thanks so much.
All right, so for our game of the week this week, happening tonight on Monday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. Game 1, San Antonio, Minnesota. This game's in San Antonio, and as alluded to earlier, we will be watching the return of Anthony Edwards um maybe a week after he went down. I mean, I think it was a fairly significant hyperextension of his knee he suffered. I mean, you saw it in the moment. It was not a pretty injury, and Shams Charania was talking about in multiple weeks we could see Anthony Edwards out. And when you hear that report, you say, well, Minnesota's season is over. If they can somehow, some way claw their way past Denver, then I mean he's not even going to be healthy for round 2 against a probably better team. Um and seeing now that San Antonio has made the second round, definitely a better team than Denver. Um but Minnesota has just, stayed on the horse and um are just everyone on the roster is stepping up tremendously in the absence of Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo, and I think Anthony Edwards was probably inspired by that, and he clearly has done everything possible to come back as soon as possible. I saw multiple videos of him kind of practicing in hopes to come back for tonight, and he looked pretty smooth. He didn't look too limited, which is just unreal given the severity of his injury and how long he was projected to be out for. So I cannot wait to see Anthony Edwards make his return tonight, and this is going to be a scrappy series. Rudy Gobert, out of anybody in the NBA, is probably the person I want on Victor Wembanyama. If I got my dream matchup to hopefully contain Wembanyama, it'd be Rudy Gobert. His impact defensively is just unmatched in the league. Um, at the center position. Besides Wembanyama's defensive impact, of course. I think everybody will be second to Wemby's defensive impact for probably the remainder of his career. Truly one of one, Victor Wembanyama is. But I think Rudy Gobert is a great matchup, and if we can even see a 70% Anthony Edwards. I mean, the Wolves have just time and time again over the last couple seasons just been scrappy and have found ways to make games close and make series close, no matter who they're playing. And so I think this is going to be a scrappy series if we can see a semi-healthy Anthony Edwards, and I can't wait for this one. Um, I think I'm going to take San Antonio in a close one. I'll take San Antonio. We'll go 105-97. They start to pull away late, but um yeah, it's gonna be a scrappy series if we can see a decent version of Anthony Edwards on it, and I can't wait for it.
This will definitely be a tough series. Again, starting off with a maybe not so healthy Anthony Edwards. Is he rushing back? Is he actually okay? That will be the question that we will see answered in these first few games. Yeah, Anthony Edwards making his comeback tonight. Dante DiVincenzo, as we've said, he is done probably for all of next year as well. Ayo Dosunmu, day to day, he was the hero against the Denver Nuggets in certain games. And the Spurs just looking to continue their strong playoff run. They made light work out of the Portland Trail Blazers. Not really much of a contest. The Blazers put up a fight, but we kind of knew the Spurs were going to take them down pretty easily. And Victor Wembanyama averaged 6.5 blocks per game in those two closeout games versus Portland. Usually, if you're averaging about two or three, is pretty good. 6.5 in two games. Now,
I mean,
granted,
you're leading the league with two or three, and
yeah,
yeah, 6.5. Get the heck
I
out of here.
mean, two games. One, I saw the stats. He had six in one and seven the other. It's a two game. uh, Um, it's a two-game sample size, but still, I mean, come on, 6.5
We've
blocks.
seen him do that a lot. 6 blocks in a game. That's not foreign for Wembanyama, which is just unbelievable.
He can block anything from anywhere. Just you can't hide from him. You can run, but you can't hide. And Chris, if you remember, Anthony Edwards said something once that is now looking pretty true as we head into from the Nuggets series to the Spurs. Anthony Edwards once said, and I quote, "They got KD, but we got Jaden McDaniels."
All-time quote from Anthony
And
Edwards.
Jaden McDaniels dropped an all-timer in game six. And meanwhile, Kevin Durant is sitting at home with the rest of his Rockets teammates. Just going to leave that there. I have the Spurs as well here in game one to start this series at home, 122, 110. I think it'll be a high flyer. Somebody off Minnesota's bench will probably do something ridiculous. They just have, they're just picking out players at this point
Yeah,
and
who's
having
next? Is
that
it is it zombie Mike Conley? Who knows?
maybe, yeah. I think Bulls fans probably wish they still had Ayo Dosunmu, and unfortunately, they do not anymore. So we'll see how this works. Timberwolves Spurs game one starting here on Monday night. Should be a good one. And to wrap up here on this special episode, we will conclude with the section that I've always called Note from the Author. As we close episode number 100, I wanted to give a shout out to our listeners. Thank you for your continued support, and what a journey it's been since starting the Diehlman at Halftime podcast in 2023. Transitioning from my original weekly NBA column at Rowan University to a podcast was a fun idea, and look where it's led us. I could not have done it without you. And thank you to my co host, Chris DiPietro, who we started with this season for adding new dimensions to the pod and increasing our social media presence.
Absolutely, Larry. It's been an awesome season. I'm honored that you wanted me to fill this role for you, and it's been a super fun time. Not only just enjoying the season together and getting to talk about it, but even just an opportunity to meet up with you weekly and work on something. It's been a lot of fun being able to do this. And yeah, I'm honored, and it's been a great time. So thank you for that.
And we cannot wait for the next 100. Probably won't be for a couple seasons, unfortunately, but we cannot wait for the next 100. Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you haven't already, make sure to follow the podcast accounts, Chris and me, on social media. The three podcast accounts on Instagram, TikTok, and X or Twitter are under @Diehlman@half. My personal X and Instagram are @Larry Diehlman. Chris's personal X and Instagram are @ChrisDippy. All 7 handles are in the description on Buzzsprout, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, although you can find Diehlman at Halftime on major podcasting platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, the main podcast website is on Buzzsprout. The website URL is dealman@halftime.buzzsprout.com. Feel free to send a comment by using the Send Us a Text button located in each episode's bio. With the exception of Apple Podcasts, the text option is available on Buzzsprout and all of the major platforms. Your comment could end up in the fan mail section of the Buzzsprout website. And thank you to Josh Reynolds and Jeff Rasmussen for being our guests this week on the podcast. You can follow Josh on X and Instagram @JoshReynolds24, and you can follow Jeff on Instagram @Jeff, that is GEOFF_RAS, and you can follow him on Twitter as well @JeffRasmussen_. And don't forget to spread the word about Diehlman at Halftime. See you next time, fellow Hoops fans.